This is the story of the greatest rough water boats in history and the man who created them, Bobby Sicenti. Born and raised in the mean streets of Brooklyn, he was tempted by all kinds of opportunities as a kid. The area that he came from was one of the most colorful and crime-ridden areas in New York City. It would have been very easy for Bobby to have followed a life of, shall we say, the other side of the law. Instead, Bobby was drawn to the harbors and bays around New York City. He cut his teeth in boating in the East River, Jamaica Bay, and the Atlantic Ocean. And he knew what he loved, and what he loved was fast boats and performance boats. He took that love to Florida. He studied his craft well, and he learned under some of the best minds in offshore performance boating. As a matter of fact, he learned under the best mind, Don Aaron.
We're here with Don Arno, father of the famed cigarette, who is now currently in first place. Don, how do you think racing has changed since you've gotten out of it?
Well, the boats are much faster, they're much bigger, they're much more comfortable, they're much more sophisticated.
Are you looking at anything particular for this race? You got anything that you might feel is different?
It looks like it's going to be a very rough water race, and apparently the deep V's will outrun the cats in it. I understand that one of the cats is going to run it. The famous shoot cat has decided to take his cat. I think he might have a hard time of it, and if it's very rough out there, if he doesn't watch his step, he might have some structural damage.
Okay, that was Don Arno, cigarette racing.
After leaving Aronow's tutelage, Bobby struck out on his own and started race headquarters. And out of race headquarters came some of the most exciting race boats in the late 70s and early 80s. And it was then that he chose the name Apache.
Okay, here we come up with Apache, who's coming up now. He's in second place. He doesn't know it, but Betty Cook out ahead of him has her outdrive problem, and she's slowly limping along at about 50 miles an hour in first place.
Running in third place, 76 points behind us right now. And it's going to be nip and tuck as to whether we can stay with him. That's basically what our race is.
We got our first place in Bahamas Michelob Light. 2 third places, Bacardi and Sutton. 8th place is Benihana. And 2 second places at Coral Gables and Michelob Light. It's had a hell of a year. Consistent racing team. This boat was rigged by Bob Sicenti at race headquarters.
The Apache was a Squadron 12. It was one of Don Aronow's designs. It was basically a stretched cigarette. But Bobby and Jerry Kilpatrick were able to take this design and bring it to levels that were undreamed of before. Its main claim to fame, dominance in rough water. And in those days, it was hard to tell whether it was the boat or the throttle arm of one Robert Sicenti.
There he goes, he's making his move now. There he goes, he's moving up, and he's going to pass Paul Clauser. And sure enough, here comes Rampage, going past Satisfaction, and he's now in fourth place. Okay, Apache's now in fourth place. He's trying to move up on Rampage, which is in third.
Bobby had moved up the echelon to the top of his craft. He was up there with names like Idoni, Moore, and of course, Smitty Smith. Bobby had arrived. And now, like a fine musician searching for just the right musical instrument, Bobby had the rough water skills, and he knew he needed the proper tool. He knew what he wanted, and what he wanted was an Apache, a real Apache.
We're going right now 90 miles an hour. These guys are amazing. They are walking away with the race. Look at this boat handle. Whoa! They are on the warpath. The Apache team is on the warpath. They're going like mad. It is a sight to see.
The 39-foot cigarette squadron hull was stretched one more time, and it was that extra 2 feet and that process which created what was then and still to this day one of the greatest rough water hulls of all time. It combined the efforts of two men, Bobby Sassenti and his vision, and Ben Kramer and his desire and competitiveness. The hull reeled off championship after championship and gave us some of the most amazing rough water footage in the annals of offshore racing. The 41 Apache was definitely the right tool for the right seas.
Bob Sassenti and Ben Kramer. Bob on the throttles, Ben on the wheel. What a team. Cutting through the big stuff. Eating up the reef. They got the lead dead in their sights. They want it right now. Last lap. This is it. All the marbles. World Championship 2 years in a row. Can they do it? If anybody can, this team can. Apache Eichert power. Engines by the unbeatable Keith Eichert. The hull is the super Apache 41. There's nothing like it in rough water. And they're putting it all together, much to the chagrin of the Mr. Roberts boat. Right, whoa! Look at that, spun it. Look at the throttle work in there. Bob Sassenti, look at the arm of Bob Sassenti, the magic throttle arm. Show us how it's done, Bob. The Apaches are taking scalps today. They're not taking any prisoners, I guarantee you. They're showing us how it's done. I haven't heard them wing those engines one time, and this is rough throttling at 90 miles an hour, folks. Pushing and pushing and pushing.
The extra 2 feet had somehow unleashed all of the potential of that marvelous V-bottom design. It seemed to have no limits. They were so competitive and dominant that they felt a slightly larger version would be the ticket to get them from Miami to New York.
By far the most experienced crew in this race is the crew behind the wheel of the Apache 47-footer. Ben Kramer, Bob Sassenti, and surprise entrant James Caan are going to run from Miami to New York with a good sense of humor, among other things. You're the most experienced crew in this race. You guys have tried it before. How is that an asset?
Well, we have a good knowledge of what to expect out there. It's rough. You can't see anything. It's a lot of stuff that we're prepared for that I think when some of these other teams go out there, they're going to get a big surprise come 12, 2, 3 in the morning.
From Apache's standpoint, Team Apache, you guys have developed a real reputation as aces in rough water. This is the rough water test of all rough water tests. What does Apache hope to accomplish from this?
Well, we have our 47-footer that hasn't got too much exposure at this point, and is probably one of the best V-bottoms for its size on the market. So we're going to prove a couple things here, and we feel like we are the best crew in offshore right now.
Bob, do you plan any more challenges like this one?
Yeah, if they come up, we're very interested in doing them, if we could afford to do it after this.
Bob's going to be racing for the next 5 years straight. We have a few campaigns under wraps right now. Bob is trying desperately to retire, but I am making him young again and keeping him in the sport.
James Caan, what puts you in this race?
Stupidity. No, this guy over here, Bobby's reputation speaks for itself, you know. Pride. Very many people have world records, you know.
World record, magic word.
I want to take the opportunity, you know, on camera to thank James Caan for taking time out of his busy life to come down here, Team Apache, and to play with us in our Blue War games here. And great to have him on board. He's a real competitor, and we love him for it. You're a Team Apache team, baby, all the way.
And that, my friends, is the site of Apache power. That's Ben Kramer in his beautiful 41-foot Apache catamaran. Hey, look at the way she carries her bow. Boat's got an adjustable wing in the bow. It's probably got the most tricks of any boat on the circuit. And a lot of thinking has gone into it. She's got a lot of lift. She's not a light boat, as you might think. Ben told me just last night that she's built as strongly as they thought was necessary for the rigors of rough water racing. But she sure is fast. You got almost a brand new boat.
Well, it's not exactly brand new. We ran the boat last year, had a lot of bugs in it, a lot of trouble with it. Had a lot of trouble with the drive system and the steering. Took the boat. Bobby Moore, my new crew chief, re-rigged the whole boat from scratch. Did an excellent job. Boat feels real good. It feels solid. But you know what they say. When the flag drops, we'll see what we got.
In their never-ending efforts to revolutionize offshore racing, Kramer and Sicenti reached out from Mike Peters with a little help from John McCall to create the first Apache cat. It was a bit ungainly and too big to be competitive with the quicker, smaller cats, and yet somehow it was an Apache, and it led to great cats in the years to come. The boat proved a handful in many ways, and it certainly was not comfortable in the seas off Rochester, New York.
Ben Kramer does have an advantage in the rough water, and he's getting way out of shape. Look out, Ben! This is going to be a pick and choose it race, George. There's going to be no throttle down work today. Systems right now is hooked up.
It certainly. Oh, they just stuffed the Apache.
Apache
In an instant, that accident almost took Bobby Sicenti's life. He suffered a basal skull fracture and is one of the few human beings who've ever had that injury and were able to walk away from it. With Bobby laid up and the team trying for the 1986 National Championship, they turned to one of their fiercest competitors, Seahawk, and borrowed this boat for the final race of the season. Sal, you've done a generous thing. You've turned your boat over, your main boat, the Cat, over to Ben Kramer of the Apache team. Did you feel you were out of the running for the national championship this year?
No, yeah, mathematically and anyway, I'm out. We've had, kind of bad luck this year, and they're on the run for it. They ran all year, and I guess they deserve a chance to try to win it as much as anybody else out there.
Okay, and it's a very nice gesture on your part. Ben, you're in a brand new boat for you today. Do you feel comfortable in a smaller boat?
Not really. I'd much rather have my boat and Bob Sicenti, but Sal was gracious enough to let me borrow his boat and Gus, and it's probably as good as you can get. I chased the same boat for the last 2 years, so it can't be all bad.
In 3 weeks, Ben Kramer's performed a miracle, back from a horrible accident, and best of luck to you today. You deserve it.
Thanks, Rich.
The race for all the marbles is back here between third and fourth place in open class. Ben Kramer has made up approximately 6 or 7 miles in the last few minutes on the systems boat. The systems boat is running very, very slowly with mechanical problems. When Ben Kramer passes the systems boat, and if he finishes ahead of the systems boat, he is the national champion. If Bob Kaiser and Errol Lanier can figure some way to hold him off, they've got the national championship. And that's the whole ball game. All right, and now you're seeing it right in front of your eyes. You're seeing the Team Apache number 96 of Ben Kramer take the third position in the race. Look at Ben Kramer react. He knows what he's done. He's just taken the national championship. Now he's got to finish. That's one happy driver in there, Ben Kramer. And boy, it couldn't have no more deserving guy in his own race in his hometown, Miami Beach, back from an accident 3 weeks ago. He borrowed a boat, and he did it. He got by Bob Kaiser in the systems. That means, along with the finish right now, and I've got to point that out, that Ben Kramer has the national championship in the open class in Offshore Racing USA, APBA.
If there was one hallmark of the Apache teams of that day, it was that they were never satisfied. So after winning the national championship in the U.S., they took off for New Zealand to take on the best that the rest of the world had to offer. Along with fellow racers, the Seahawk team and Sal Magluta, the Yanks went south and they conquered.
We're basically out of the point now, but no matter what, we're going to go out there and do our best and make them earn it.
Having conquered races on both sides of the globe, Apache set out to try some more revolutionary designs, always pushing the envelope. Bigger, faster, more boldly designed, Apache was a name to be reckoned with all over the world.
think the cats are still going to run a little bit, and it's going to be a good race. We're really pumped up for it.
You want to go boat racing, you got to be able to take all kind of water.
Allez vite is French for go fast.
Oh! Hold her down, Pete.
The fleet grew